Welcome back to Self-Proofing, AI, Money, and You. This is episode 2. In episode 1, we broke down the 7-step framework for using AI to move from niche to scale. That episode was about process. Today is about capability. Because tools are everywhere now, AI is accessible, advice is endless, and still, some creators build momentum while others stall. So the real question is not just what tools are available, it's this. What skills actually separate successful creators from everyone else? To unpack that, I'm joined again by Jordan, entrepreneur, operator, and someone who has used this framework successfully in the real world. And Dr. Maya is back as well, AI expert and one of the sharpest thinkers I know when it comes to human-machine collaboration. Jordan, Maya, great to have you both back.
Glad to be here. This is a useful conversation because people love talking about tools, but they avoid talking about skills. And that's usually where the truth is.
Happy to be back. I agree. We're in a moment where people either overestimate AI or underestimate the human capabilities required to use it well. Access to AI creates potential. It does not automatically create leverage.
That's a great distinction. Access creates potential. Skill creates results. So let's start simple. If you had to name the single most important skill that separates creators who grow from creators who plateau, what would it be? Jordan, you first.
Clarity. And I don't think it's close. Successful creators are clear about what they do, who it's for, what problem they solve, what makes their angle different, and what action they want the audience to take. Most creators are not lacking effort. They're lacking clarity.
Give me an example of vague versus clear.
Sure. A vague creator says, I make content about productivity. A clearer creator says, I help overwhelmed solo business owners build simple systems so they can stay consistent without burning out. That second version instantly gives you more direction. The audience is clearer. The pain is clearer. The emotional angle is clearer. The next 10 video ideas become easier.
Or take someone in the money niche. A vague creator says, I talk about personal finance. A clearer creator says, I help creators build income systems that reduce monthly stress and smooth out inconsistent revenue. Same topic, totally different level of usefulness.
So clarity isn't just branding. It's operational.
Exactly. It changes how you think, how you create, and how your audience interprets you. If people can't quickly understand what you do and why it matters, they usually don't stay long enough to discover how smart you are.
That's a powerful line. So clarity is not cosmetic, it's foundational.
Maya, same answer? Or do you see something deeper underneath clarity?
I agree with clarity, but I'd go one layer deeper. I'd say the skill underneath clarity is structured thinking. Clarity is the visible output. Structured thinking is the underlying capability.
That's important because a lot of people think prompting is some separate magical skill.
Right. Prompting is often just thinking made visible.
And it also saves time. When you're clear and structured, you can reject weak ideas faster. You can outline faster. You can tell when something is off faster. Clarity becomes a speed multiplier.
Let me push both of you. If clarity and structured thinking are so important, then why do some creators with average delivery still succeed?
Because they understand audience pain. That's the next big separator.
AI can help surface patterns, but the creator still has to interpret what matters. That interpretive layer is empathy.
So if we summarize the foundation, it looks like this: clarity, structured thinking, and empathy.
Exactly.
That's the base layer.
And that base layer matters now more than ever, because AI makes it easier to produce content, but it does not automatically make content meaningful. Let's stay on that theme and make it more practical. Jordan, when you started getting traction, what changed first? Was it your content quality, your production, your camera presence, or something else entirely?
Decision making. That was the biggest shift. At the beginning, I was constantly asking, what should I post? And on the surface, that sounds normal, but it kept me reactive. Because when you decide from mood, you end up creating from mood. You chase inspiration. You second-guess ideas. You overinvest in weak topics you underinvest in strong ones, and you confuse motion with progress. The breakthrough came when I stopped deciding from mood and started deciding from evidence. That meant validating ideas before scripting, filtering weak ideas earlier, using outlines instead of improvising, treating content like a system instead of a random creative impulse. So yes, one of the most important creator skills is strategic decision-making under uncertainty. Successful creators don't just make better videos, they make better decisions, repeatedly.
What did that look like in practice? Because decide from evidence sounds smart, but how does a creator actually do that?
For me, it became a simple process. I stopped asking, do I feel like talking about this? And started asking, does this solve a real pain point? Is there a clear promise? Is there enough curiosity here? Have I seen evidence that people care? Then I'd score ideas, not in some overly complicated way, just enough to create distance between me and my impulses. If an idea had weak audience relevance, vague transformation, or unclear payoff, it didn't get my best energy. That changed everything. Because creators waste massive amounts of time polishing weak ideas.
That's such a painful truth.
It is. A lot of people try to fix bad decisions with more effort. They think, maybe if I script it better, or maybe if I edit it harder, or maybe if I add more B-roll. But if the core promise is weak, you're decorating something fragile.
Maya, does AI improve decision-making or weaken it?
It can do both. AI improves decision-making when it reveals patterns, surfaces comparisons, compresses research, and reduces noise. But it weakens decision-making if the creator outsources judgment completely. If AI chooses your idea, your angle, your script, your title, and your hook, then over time, you stop exercising creative judgment. That's dangerous. AI should reduce friction, not replace discernment. The critical skill is knowing where AI ends and human judgment begins.
Can you make that boundary clearer?
Yes, I think of it in layers. AI is excellent for collection, comparison, clustering, and first-pass organization. It can help you gather comments, summarize competitor themes, identify recurring questions, suggest possible hooks, spot language patterns, group topics into categories. That's incredibly useful. But the human still needs to decide which insight matters most, which angle is sharpest, which promise feels strongest, which story earns trust, which tone matches the brand. That layer is judgment, and judgment gets weaker if you never practice it.
That's exactly right. I use AI heavily in the early and middle part of the workflow. Research, clustering, structure, expansion, rewriting, summarization, all useful. But I never want AI controlling my final positioning, my voice, my tone, or my taste.
Let's talk about taste, because I think people hear that word and assume it means style or aesthetics.
Taste is much bigger than that. Taste is the ability to choose what matters and reject what doesn't. It shapes which ideas you keep, which examples you use, which lines you cut, which visuals you pair, which title you choose, what tone feels right, and what emotional texture the piece has. Taste is what stops your content from sounding like everyone else using the same tools.
Define the difference between judgment and taste.
Judgment helps you determine whether something works. Taste helps you determine whether something feels right for you, your audience, and your positioning. Judgment might say, this hook is clear. Taste might say, yes, but it sounds too aggressive for my audience. Judgment might say, this example proves the point. Taste might say, yes, but it feels borrowed and lifeless. Both matter.
And taste is tied closely to curation. Successful creators are curators of attention. They organize information, they control sequence, they manage tension. They decide what gets emphasized and what gets removed. They shape pacing, they preserve relevance. In a crowded content environment, production alone is not enough. The creators who win are often the ones who can filter signal from noise.
So in a world where AI can generate almost infinite drafts, the real advantage becomes filtering.
Exactly. Abundance changes the game. When content becomes easier to produce, selection becomes more valuable. The creator who can generate 10 possible versions is not automatically ahead. The creator who can identify the strongest one is ahead.
That's why creators need to stop obsessing over output volume in isolation. Volume matters, but only if you're getting better at choosing. If you produce a lot of content, but your selection process stays weak, then you're just scaling noise.
That's a great line. Scaling noise.
It happens all the time. Someone discovers AI, becomes way more efficient, and suddenly produces 3 times as much content. But if their clarity is weak, their audience understanding is weak, and their judgment is weak, then all they've really done is increase the speed of mediocre decisions.
And that can actually be dangerous because it feels like progress.
Exactly. You feel productive. You feel advanced. You feel like you've built a machine. But underneath that machine, the core decisions are still soft.
Which is why the human layer matters more, not less, in the AI era. The more AI reduces friction, the more your taste, judgment, and decision-making become the source of differentiation.
I think that's a powerful point. People assume AI reduces the importance of human skill, but in many cases, it exposes the quality of human skill.
100%. AI is not just a productivity tool. It's a mirror. If your thinking is clear, AI can amplify you. If your thinking is vague, AI can amplify that too.
So the middle of the framework is not just about doing more with AI. It's about becoming the kind of creator who can direct, filter, and refine with more intelligence.
Exactly. And that's why decision-making, judgment, and taste are not soft skills. They are performance skills. They directly shape growth.
That's the shift. Not how do I make more content, but how do I make better decisions at every stage of the workflow?
And once you start asking that question, your whole creator business changes.
Before we move on, I want to stay with this boundary between AI assistance and human judgment. Because I think a lot of creators hear the principle, but still struggle with the practical line. So Jordan, give me a real-world example. What is a decision you're happy to let AI support heavily, and what is a decision you insist on making yourself?
Great question. I'm very happy to let AI support research-heavy decisions. For example, if I'm exploring a topic, I'll absolutely use AI to gather patterns from comments, cluster repeated questions, compare themes across competitors, and even suggest possible content angles. That saves me a ton of time. I'm also happy to let AI help me expand a rough outline, tighten transitions, or generate multiple hook variations once I already know the core promise. But I do not want AI deciding the final promise for me. I do not want AI deciding the emotional tone of the piece. I do not want AI deciding what I actually stand for, because that's where the brand lives.
So AI can assist the exploration, but not own the identity.
Exactly. If the positioning, the voice, and the standard of quality all come from the model, then over time, the creator becomes a manager of outputs instead of an author with a point of view. And that's a dangerous trade.
I think that framing is exactly right. Creators need to distinguish between support and substitution. Support means the system reduces friction while preserving authorship. Substitution means the system starts replacing the human layer that creates distinction. And the problem is, substitution often feels efficient in the short term. You get a fast draft, you get 10 quick title options, you get a complete script in seconds. So it feels like leverage. But if you keep outsourcing the evaluative layer, your own judgment gets weaker.
That's the part people don't think about enough. The immediate gain can hide the long-term cost.
Exactly. If a creator constantly asks AI to decide what is best, then eventually they stop strengthening the internal muscles that let them recognize what is best. And those muscles matter, because markets change, audiences change, platforms change, formats change. The creator who has strong judgment can adapt. The creator who only knows how to prompt for answers becomes more fragile.
That's why I think creators need what I'd call active collaboration, not passive dependence. Use AI to propose. Use AI to compare. Use AI to challenge your first draft. Use AI to show you blind spots. But don't let it become the final authority on what you publish.
So what does active collaboration sound like in practice?
It sounds like this. Here's the audience. Here's the pain point. Here's the transformation. Give me 5 hook options. Then I evaluate those options. I combine 2. I sharpen 1. I reject 3. Or I'll say, here's my outline. Tell me where the logic gets weak. That's useful, but I'm still the one choosing the final shape.
And that process strengthens the creator over time, because they are not merely receiving outputs, they are practicing selection. They are practicing evaluation. They are practicing refinement. That creates better content now and better instincts later.
So maybe that's the hidden point. A great AI workflow should not just produce content faster, it should also make the creator more capable.
Exactly. The right workflow compounds skill. The wrong workflow replaces skill. And if creators understand that distinction early, they'll make much better decisions about how they use these tools.
And that brings us back to the larger theme of the episode. The creators who win are not the ones with the most tools. They're the ones with the clearest thinking, the strongest judgment, and the best ability to turn support into leverage without surrendering authorship.
That's a strong bridge because it makes the whole conversation practical. This isn't anti-AI, it's pro-mastery.
Exactly. And mastery is what keeps the work human, even as the workflow becomes more efficient.
Let's push into something people usually describe as mysterious: taste. Because taste is one of those words that sounds vague until you see its impact. Can taste actually be taught? Or is it just something some people have and other people don't?
Yes, it can absolutely be trained. Not perfectly, not instantly, but very meaningfully. Taste develops through exposure, comparison, iteration, feedback, and reflection.
So you're saying taste is less about being born with some artistic gift and more about training your ability to notice meaningful differences.
Exactly. A creator with developing taste learns to compare 2 good options and explain why one is better.
And analytics help too, if you're willing to look honestly. That's where feedback tolerance comes in.
Say more about that, because that line alone could save people years.
Sure. When a video underperforms, most creators go emotional first. But the more useful first question is, what variable likely broke?
Exactly. Discernment on the front end, honest learning on the back end.
That leads straight into emotional resilience. Because the algorithm gives instant feedback, click-through rate, retention, comments, comparison, velocity, conversion, it's constant. Maya, how important is resilience in all this?
It's essential. Without emotional resilience, every low-performing video feels like a personal failure. Successful creators separate identity from feedback. They don't say, "This flopped, so I'm not good enough." They say, "This underperformed. What variable can I improve?" That shift changes everything.
So resilience is not just about being tough. It's about staying useful under pressure.
Exactly. Resilience protects decision quality. It gives you enough emotional distance to diagnose instead of dramatize. And systems help here. When you have a process, failure becomes diagnosable instead of emotional. That protects creativity.
Exactly. The system gives you somewhere to look besides your self-worth. You can inspect the idea, the hook, the promise, the structure, the title, the thumbnail, the packaging, the audience fit. That makes content less emotionally random.
It sounds like the deeper message here is that successful creators aren't just more talented, they're more systematic. Jordan, would you agree?
Completely. The real difference usually isn't intelligence, it's loop design. Successful creators build better loops, better idea loops, better research loops, better outline loops, better scripting loops, better review loops, better feedback loops. If your loops improve, your output improves. That's why I don't think the answer is work harder. The answer is design better systems. And once you treat content like a business asset instead of a random act of expression, you move differently.
What changes when someone makes that shift?
3 things. First, they stop over-romanticizing randomness. Second, they start protecting repeatable wins. If something works, they document it. Third, they stop treating content as isolated events and start treating it as a portfolio. Each piece teaches the next piece.
That sounds less romantic, but more useful.
Exactly. And it doesn't kill creativity, it protects it. Because structure creates freedom.
And I'd add one more thing. Systems reduce cognitive drag. When you have to make every decision from scratch, your brain gets tired in ways that are hard to notice. A good system removes repetitive ambiguity. And when ambiguity drops, better thinking becomes possible.
So systems are not anti-creative, they're anti-friction.
Exactly.
Structure is not the opposite of art. For a working creator, structure is often what makes art sustainable.
That's the shift. Successful creators build systems that make learning repeatable and creativity sustainable. Maya, what skill do you think people underestimate the most right now?
Synthesis. Successful creators synthesize information better than everyone else. They take research, trends, audience pain, personal experience, frameworks, and outside observations, and turn those inputs into something coherent, relevant, and original. That's why 2 creators can look at the same inputs and produce very different content. One repeats, the other reframes, and the reframer wins.
Let's stay there, because I think synthesis is one of those words people nod at without fully appreciating. What does strong synthesis actually look like in creator work?
Strong synthesis means you can combine multiple signals into one meaningful perspective. For example, maybe you notice repeated audience frustration around consistency. You also notice a trend in AI-assisted workflows. You also have personal experience with burnout. You also understand something about systems design. A weaker creator might talk about each of those separately. A stronger creator combines them into a sharper idea, like why most creators don't have a motivation problem. They have a systems problem, and AI can help fix it if used correctly. That's synthesis. It's not just collecting ideas, it's combining them into a more useful frame.
That's such a big distinction, because a lot of creators confuse information with insight. They think if they gather enough notes, enough screenshots, enough clips, enough prompts, enough trend reports, they're doing deep work. But collecting is not the same as synthesizing. Synthesis is where you make meaning. That's where your perspective enters. That's where your taste enters. That's where your experience enters. That's where your originality starts to become visible.
And where does AI fit in that process?
AI helps collect and organize inputs. It can summarize, compare, cluster, and speed up discovery. But synthesis still depends on human perspective. AI gives you ingredients. You still have to cook. That is the difference.
That metaphor is so clean. AI gives you ingredients. You still have to cook.
And great creators become known for how they cook. That's the brand, that's the voice, that's the perspective. Not that they had access to information. Everyone has access now. The differentiator is what they do with it.
Let's make this practical. If someone listening is a smaller creator and wants to improve quickly, what skill should they train first? Jordan, you go first.
Train your ability to identify audience pain. If you can get good at seeing what your audience is frustrated by, confused by, and trying to solve, your whole content engine gets stronger. Ideas improve first, then titles, then scripts, then trust. Everything starts there.
Give them a practical way to do that this week.
Sure. For the next 7 days, stop brainstorming from your own head first. Instead, collect proof. Read comments, read DMs, read community posts, read questions under competitor videos. Look for repeated phrases. Look for emotional words. Look for moments where people describe a problem in their own language. Then, sort those observations into 3 buckets: frustration, confusion, and desire. Once you've done that, write 10 video ideas based only on those patterns, not on what feels impressive, on what feels relevant. That one habit can shift a creator's whole trajectory.
Maya?
Train structured thinking. Learn to think in sequence. Problem, stakes, misunderstanding, desired outcome, framework, action. If you can think clearly, AI becomes dramatically more useful.
Give a concrete exercise.
Take one topic you know well and force yourself to explain it in 6 clean steps. What problem does the audience face? Why does it matter now? What do they usually misunderstand? What shift in thinking do they need? What framework or process helps? What action should they take next? Do that without rambling. Do it without hiding behind jargon. Do it until someone else could repeat it back clearly. That exercise strengthens both content and prompting at the same time.
Mine would be feedback literacy. Learn how to interpret performance without collapsing emotionally. If you can do that, every video becomes useful data. And if every video becomes useful data, then even your losses start compounding in your favor.
That's big, because smaller creators often think their main problem is visibility. Sometimes it is, but often the deeper issue is they're not learning efficiently. They post, react emotionally, post again, react emotionally, and never turn outcomes into insight.
Yes, and that keeps them stuck in repetition without development.
So if we put all of this together, what separates successful creators from everyone else? It's not just effort. It's not just talent. It's not just access to AI. It's clarity, structured thinking, audience empathy, decision-making, judgment, taste, feedback tolerance, emotional resilience, systems thinking, and synthesis. That is a much more complete picture of creator skill in this era.
Absolutely. And the good news is, none of that requires waiting for permission. You can start training those skills now.
And the better you get at them, the more useful AI becomes. Because AI is not the substitute for mastery, it's the multiplier of mastery.
Let's close with one sentence from each of you. What separates successful creators from everyone else? Jordan?
Successful creators stop guessing and start operating from validated clarity.
Maya?
Successful creators combine structured thinking with human judgment and use AI to amplify both.
And for me, successful creators turn creativity into a system without draining the humanity out of it. That's episode 2. If you got value from this, go back and listen to episode 1 on the full 7-step framework. Together, those first 2 episodes give you the foundation. First the process, now the skills. And in the next episode, we're tackling a question a lot of creators avoid until it's too late. When should you niche down? And when does niche become a trap? Because niching can create clarity, but it can also create limitation if you do it too early, too narrowly, or for the wrong reasons. We're going to unpack how to know the difference. Until then, keep building with intention. Keep learning from the data. Keep refining your thinking. And keep using AI as a tool to sharpen your work, not replace your voice. See you in episode 3.